Hi, my name is Nancy O'Hagan. I'm the founder and president of the Caring for Carcinoid Foundation. I'm also a metastatic carcinoid patient. The mission of the Caring for Carcinoid Foundation is to discover a cure for carcinoid cancer. The vision of the foundation is to eliminate the suffering of carcinoid and related neuroendocrine tumor patients, their families, and their friends. Today we're here at the Nebraska Medical Center. We're with an incredible patient who has an amazing story. Her name is Ruth Gerdes. Ruth, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Nancy. Welcome to Nebraska.
Thank you. I've had such a lovely trip here. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here. Your diagnosis of carcinoid cancer and how that came about. Can you describe it to us and describe why you chose surgery as the right approach to treat this disease for you?
Well, certainly, Nancy. Surgery for me was actually a very easy decision after I did a lot of research. And the ease of the decision was very simple because everything I read in the research told me that the only option for a long-term benefit was surgery. No, traditional chemo and radiation really don't work for this type of cancer. So surgery was a fairly easy decision for me.
And what did you think when you first heard carcinoid cancer? Did Dr. Zaruba, your primary care physician, give you the news, or was it a surgeon?
Actually, it was Dr. Fitzke. Dr. Zaruba and I had gone through about 10 days of, I think, every test he could dream up I possibly had. But all of my blood work, all of my markers were stone cold normal. So it was a very difficult case to diagnose. We knew that I had liver lesions. We didn't know what was causing them. And the first test that he did was a CAT scan, and we were told that was clear. So we went on to the series of next and next and next. And after about 10 days, Dr. Zaruba called a halt, and he said, "This just doesn't make any sense." So he went back and went back to the imaging center where I had the CAT scan done, and basically asked them firmly, but politely, to reread it. And he worked his way up the medical chain there until he got the radiologist on the phone. And I believe the gentleman actually agreed to reread it just to prove Dr. Zaruba was wrong. But when he got the scan open, his tone changed, and he said, "Oh my gosh, I am so sorry, Dr. Zaruba, we did miss something on the original CAT scan." And so we weren't sure when I went into surgery. I went into surgery for a mass in the midgut, as most carcinoids start with, or a lot of us do.
Right. And so what kind of symptoms did you have that prompted you to go to Dr. Zaruba in the first place?
I didn't have a symptom. Mine was found incidentally. I had had a procedure done in October, had gotten an infection, and through that infection, they did an MRI of my liver. Actually, it was for the lungs to make sure there wasn't a blood clot or something from that procedure that was complicating things. However, the infectious disease doctor did not tell me or did not tell Dr. Zaruba about it. So it was actually an insurance process that we were going through for estate planning where we found out that I had liver lesions and had to pursue it. And that was in December then.
And so what did you think when you had gone through the first round of surgery with Dr. Fitzke, and then and then you met with Dr. Botha, and you heard about this new procedure? What did you think, and tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, Dr. Botha and I share a lot of personality traits. We're both very innovative people. We're both very curious. And I had done a lot of research between my bowel resection and meeting with Dr. Botha. And when he started telling me what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it, it made very good sense to me. I didn't even bother me in the least, even though he was talking about something that had never been done in the U.S. He had good reason and he explained it very well to me. So I was very ready to do the surgeries.
Terrific. And tell us a little bit about them. What did you think when you were going in to be the first patient in the U.S. to undergo this procedure?
Well, I had wonderful support from my family and friends. I had wonderful medical help. I have a primary care physician. I live in a small rural town in Nebraska of 3,500 people, And I actually believe I probably have the best primary care person in the world for carcinoid cancer. He's curious by nature, as am I, and he and I did research together. We spent a lot of time on this and before we agreed to it. I think Dr. Botha and Dr. Zaruba will tell you I'm probably the question queen, because I would come up with questions, they would answer them, that would generate more questions. But that allowed me the freedom as we went through everything to be very committed to this. And really, Nancy, my reason for being public about everything that I went through is 90% of me, it was a very easy decision to be public. But the other 10% of me caused me pause, and the real pause in my being public about all of this is I'm very concerned that another carcinoid patient will read about this and hear about this, and they won't get to a surgeon of the talent that Dr. Botha has, nor will they have the support that the Nebraska Medical Center gave Dr. Botha. So for those reasons, it was an easy decision for me and an easy to be public. But carcinoid patients, if you're going to try this, make sure you're at a liver transplant center where there's hepatologist and anesthesiologist, specialized nursing care that deals with liver issues and complications all the time. These are not small surgeries.
I think that's so important to highlight, Ruth, and I'm so grateful to you for going public with your story. It's amazing that a carcinoid patient was the first one to have this procedure done in the United States, and I'm so grateful to Dr. Botha for doing that for you. It's amazing. And I think it's very important, just as the doctors each have highlighted, your general surgeon, Dr. Fitzke, your primary care practitioner, Dr. Zaruba, and your hepatobiliary surgeon, Dr. Botha, each has stressed the importance of collaboration and the need to work with each other very closely, as well as with you, and to be at a multidisciplinary center like Nebraska Medical Center, just as you're highlighting, because it's important to have access to the specialist and to a high quality of care.
Yeah, I think that it is critical as we start this new generation of care in carcinoid that we don't just say, just get to a carcinoid expert. I think if you're going to try this stage surgery, you better be at a liver transplant center with a surgeon who's got all of the support, and then have the primary care physician who's looking after your overall health. I am amazed. These three gentlemen have to be three of the busiest doctors anywhere in the state of Nebraska and in the Midwest. They're the easiest people to find in the world. They're very gracious with their time. They're very generous with their time. Dr. Zaruba, since my case, has now I think he treats 6 or 7 other carcinoid patients. We have people driving from Oklahoma, from Kansas City to our small town just to get that care. And I think it's a testament to the fact that those 3 doctors work so well together.
And as well as to the fact that it highlights the need that carcinoid patients have to find a doctor who wants to treat them and who wants to learn more about carcinoid and related neuroendocrine tumors, and to find a center that is willing to have doctors practice with these patients and focus on them.
Oh, absolutely, and to be able to trust them. You know, we did take a leap of faith to do these surgeries, but it was very measured, it was very researched, and it was very detailed. And, you know, as busy as these 3 doctors are, they never made me feel rushed. If I came in, which I did, with 10 pages of questions, Dr. Botha and I sat down with my husband and we answered all of them. And then I'd go back and more questions had come up and I'd see Zaruba, and then the 2 of them would talk. And we did that about a half a dozen times before we finally proceeded with the surgeries.
Well, I think that's such an important point for carcinoid patients to know, that you really need to sit down with the doctor, the surgeon, whoever's going to treat you, and ask a lot of questions and make sure that they feel like the patient needs to make sure that the doctor feels that it's as important for him or her as it is for the patient. And I think that's what your doctors were also highlighting as well, saying that, it's an important day for the surgeon, and it's an incredibly important day in the patient's life, in your life and in my life, if when we go in for treatment.
Absolutely, and I think because of the atmosphere here at the Nebraska Medical Center of innovation with the liver transplant program, being such a premier program, as well as their bowel transplant program. I think there's a culture here of openness and working with anybody who can give them good thoughts or any idea that can be brought forward. I actually got to Dr. Botha because of a third-year medical student at UNMC that's a family member. He kept telling me about this wonderfully talented surgeon in the OR, but what a great person he was besides that. And that combination, when Dr. Fitzke told me I couldn't get into the liver, Ruth, it was beyond my capacity, the first thing he said to me was, you really need to get to one of the liver transplant doctors at the medical center. And having heard my nephew talk about this wonderful transplant surgeon, it became a very easy place for me to look to for help. And then with the collaboration and the ease of getting a hold of everybody and all of that made it very seamless for me. The other thing that Nancy, I think is really important for patients dealing with carcinoid that I have learned is not the norm, but certainly was the norm in my case, is what the Nebraska Medical Center, what Dr. Fitzke's office and Dr. Zaruba's office did for me in regard to my insurance. I did not have to lift a finger to get any of this approved by my insurance. They did all of the work.
That's an incredibly important point, Ruth. And is that normal? Have you found that?
I'm finding from other carcinoid patients that is not the norm.
Is it normal here in Nebraska?
It is very normal here in Nebraska. And I think, again, it comes from having a liver transplant. They're used to working with patients from all over the U.S. as well as all over the world. What I found as we were going through getting my insurance approved is they have access and readily available every piece of documentation they would ever need for a piece of liver surgery.
I see.
And so because the insurance people know that and it's readily available, it makes it much easier for the patient.
Oh, terrific. That's very important to underscore because insurance is such a tricky issue.
Yes.
Especially with a new procedure and especially on a carcinoid patient.
Yes.
Well, it's a wonderful story, Ruth. Thank you so much for sharing it. I'm very grateful to you, and I know many patients will want to contact you. Again, we're here at the Nebraska Medical Center, and for more information, if you have any questions, please contact us at the Caring for Carcinoid Foundation, or please contact the Nebraska Medical Center. Thanks very much.